You see, Japan's history is unlike virtually any other country. It's got this unbroken chain of emperors stretching back at least 1,500 years. No changing dynasties, none of that. But here's the massive paradox. For a huge chunk of that history, those emperors, they didn't actually rule.
So let's dive right in. We really need to explore this mystery. How did Japan's emperors end up living as powerless prisoners in their own palaces, while military dictators actually ran the whole country? I mean, how did a line of sovereigns who were literally considered quasi-divine beings end up completely sidelined for nearly 7 centuries? Well, to understand this total eclipse of imperial power, we actually have to go back to a time when they held all the cards. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Imperial Golden Age.
Now, what's super fascinating here is that the title of shogun was originally just a temporary gig. Let's look back to the year 794. Emperor Kamo moves the capital to Kyoto, kicking off this golden age where the emperor was totally, absolutely undisputed. During this time, Kamo created the office of Sei Taishogun, which basically translates to the general that subdues the barbarians. It was a temporary military commission, created specifically to fight northern tribes. The emperor held all the power, and the shogun was just a servant sent on a specific military errand. It was definitely 100% not a permanent dictatorship.
Moving right along to Section 2, the fatal dual structure.
Now you'd think a golden age like that would last forever, right? But the emperors slowly and completely by accident engineered their own loss of power. It wasn't an overnight coup, it was a slow bleed. During the Heian period, the average reign of an emperor dropped to just 12 years. Why? Because these emperors started abdicating early to enter this secluded, cloistered existence in Kyoto. It's wildly ironic. By stepping back to remain aloof from dirty politics and just focus on religion, they actively gave their power away. They delegated the daily administration of the government to powerful groups like the Fujiwara clan, and crucially, they outsourced the taxation and administration of their distant provinces.
And that outsourcing, that directly birthed the samurai. Contrary to the popular myth we often hear about them starting out as just this purely military caste of warriors, samurai were actually originally hereditary civil servants sent out to distant lands. Their main job was local tax collection and provincial administration on behalf of the emperor. But as they held land in these remote provinces, they evolved. They filled the massive administrative vacuum left by those cloistered Kyoto emperors, and eventually they transformed into an incredibly powerful, decentralized feudal military caste. The ultimate irony here is captured perfectly by the reign of Emperor Sutoku. He sat on the chrysanthemum throne for 19 years in the 12th century, but the historical records describe a ruler completely obsessed with religious rites and ceremonial events. While he was busy visiting ceremonial sites, all the real political power was quietly slipping into the hands of 4 major clans: the Fujiwara, the Minamoto, the Taira, and the Tachibana. The emperor had basically inadvertently turned himself into a religious mascot long before the warlords even officially took over. Crazy, right?
Which leads us to Section 3, the samurai seize control. The fragile illusion of imperial authority was about to violently shatter. In 1179, the head of the Taira clan simply seized control of the government in a coup. This triggered a massive explosive conflict known as the Genpei War, which ran from 1180 to 1185 as the rival Minamoto clan fought back. And when the dust finally settled, the victorious Minamoto clan absolutely did not hand power back to the emperor. No way. Instead, they established the Kamakura shogunate, a military dictatorship known as a bakufu. For the very first time, emperors were directly and officially overshadowed by a military ruler. The classical period of imperial history was officially dead. Now for Section 4, figureheads in the shadows. For the next 7 centuries, Japan descended into periods of complex warlord rule and outright anarchy, plunging the imperial family into total political darkness. By the time of the Tokugawa clan in 1603, the reality was just stark. Over in Kyoto, the emperor was completely isolated, a purely ceremonial, quasi-divine figurehead kept entirely out of sight. Meanwhile, over in Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo, the shogun held absolute, uncontested military and political control over the entire nation. There was a rigid, undeniable delineation of power, and the emperor literally had none of it. Just to prove exactly how powerless the emperors had become during this era, we have to look at the Purple Robe Incident of 1627. The shogun had strictly prohibited the emperor from bestowing traditional purple robes on priests.
This was a move entirely designed to give the shogun control over Japan's religious life. While knowing exactly what he was doing, Emperor Go-Mizunoo intentionally broke this law and bestowed the robes anyway. It was this fascinating, desperate little test to see if he had any real authority left against the shogun's decrees.
And the result? The shogun brutally and immediately invalidated the emperor's actions. The absolute humiliation of this event made the teenage emperor Go-Mizunoo realize that he was, in fact, entirely powerless. So in 1629, just 2 years after the incident, he abdicated the throne. He just simply gave up.
Which brings us to our final act, Section 5, the Imperial Restoration.
So how did the emperors finally break free from the shadows after centuries of irrelevance? Well, it wasn't through an internal imperial uprising. The Tokugawa shogunate had maintained its iron grip, totally marginalizing the emperors for a staggering 265 years. The emperors lived in absolute solitude. It actually took a massive external shock to finally shatter this military dictatorship's hold on Japan. That shock arrived in the summer of 1853. An American naval expedition sailed right into Tokyo Harbor and fired blank shots from their cannons. The technological superiority of these Western warships was just undeniable. The shogunate, which had intentionally isolated Japan from Western influence for centuries, suddenly found itself entirely unequipped to handle this existential threat. The Japanese faced a severe dilemma: modernize and adapt, or fall victim to the wave of Western imperialism that was already sweeping across Asia.
In a desperate bid to survive, powerful regional lords, known as the daimyos, orchestrated an internal coup in January 1868. On paper, the result was the fall of the 265-year-old Tokugawa shogunate and the Meiji Restoration of the emperor to absolute power, triggering rapid Western-style modernization. But actually, the reality was quite different. The restored Emperor Meiji, he was only 15 years old. The true architects here were the regional lords, who basically just used the boy emperor as a unifying mascot so they could industrialize the nation, build a modern military, and completely dismantle the traditional samurai class. As you reflect on Japan's incredible transformation from a medieval state to a modernized powerhouse in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it leaves us with one final, lingering question. Even after the Meiji Restoration, was the emperor actually pulling the strings? Or was the 15-year-old boy and his successors just another highly revered figurehead, this time guided by modern politicians instead of shoguns? It's a fascinating debate that continues among historians to this day. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the history you think you know, and I'll catch you next time.